you open up to the book of Job. Book of Job, a very familiar passage, but there is great profundity and power in this passage, and I pray that we have fresh insight today about this passage on today. Job, the 13th chapter, commencing in verse 13. Job 13, commencing in verse 13. Again, Job 13. Good to see Minister Gray, of course, with us, and good to see Minister Washington back with us. He's been out. We pray God's strength continually for he and his family. He's back with us, and many others who were here. Deacon Lloyd was back with us this morning, so good to see him. And again, we want to pray for all of our families and friends yet among us in our sanctuary. Job 13. Commencing in verse 13, it says, "Hold your peace with me, and let me speak. Then let come on me what may. Why do I take my flesh in my teeth, and put my life in my hands? Though he slay me, yet will I trust him. Even so I will defend my own ways before him." Amen. You may be seated. I read that from New King James Version today, because I wanted us to hear that language, though he slay me, yet will I trust him. If we are to believe, God has us where he wants us, and I do believe that. Today, I want to title this second installment in our series, Trust Issues.
Woo.
Trust issues.
Help yourself, man.
I want to raise a question. Is there anyone in here besides me who's ever had trust issues?
Wow.
I'm not simply talking about your relationship with someone that you dated, someone that you thought you were going to marry, or someone that you went to your homecoming dance with, someone that you met in college, or someone that you met in high school, someone that might have been your sweetheart who came to your sweet 16 birthday party. I'm not talking about that kind of trust issue. Because all of us, if we're honest, many of us, if we have not been down that road, we know someone who's had those kinds of trust issues where you gave someone your heart and it was as if they took it like a basketball and bounced it around. Or you gave someone your time, gave someone your money, gave someone your energy, and you invested your life and your time and your effort and your energy into that person. And I'm not trying to diminish that, because many of us, if you have been down that road, if you've ever been betrayed, if you've ever had your heart broken, if you've ever had questions, if you've ever had suspicions, if you've ever found yourself with your life turned upside down, you know the pain, you know the excruciating hardship and the challenge of trying to love someone when you have trust issues. But I'm not talking about trust issues on the horizontal today. But I've come to preach to somebody who's honest enough to admit that sometimes you and I might have some trust issues with God.
Woo. Vertically.
I've come to preach to someone who is honest enough to admit that sometimes in this life, God will allow some stuff to go down. And it might get you to a place where you have trust issues. Anyone here ever had trust issues with God? Anyone ever had something happen in your life that hit you so hard it knocked the wind out of you?
Yeah.
Knocked the wind out of your faith, knock the wind out of your hope, knock the wind out of your trust, where you had to ask yourself, is God still trustworthy? Now, if I have to be the only one who's willing to admit that today, I'll be the only one. But I will stand by myself if necessary to declare that in this life sometimes, Brother Dotson, I've learned that even if God has come through before, there will come a time where God might allow certain things to happen. He might allow somebody to get sick and die. He might allow you to lose your job. He might allow you to be working but underpaid and underappreciated. He might allow some things to happen in your child's life, in your spouse's life, in your marital life, in your children's school and education, in your career, with a boss, with a subordinate, with a friend, with a trusted confidant. He might allow some things to happen, and you're left asking God, why would you let this happen? How could you let this happen? I'm serving you on the usher board. I'm singing in the choir. I'm preaching in the pulpit. I'm praying when you said pray. I'm fasting because you told me it's good to fast. I'm kind to other people. I'm loving to other people. I'm trying to serve other people. I'm giving to other people. And I'm still faithful. And I'm serving. But I'm frustrated. And I'm hurting. And I'm tired. And I'm fatigued. And God, I love you. And I'm trying to trust you. But God, I have some trust issues.
Yes, sir! Trust issues. Talk.
And if you have not been there, keep living. Because in this life, I don't care if you're younger or older. I don't care where you are on the spectrum of age or stage. If you're in high school, if you're in college, if you're a young adult, if you're emerging into the dawn of your life, or if you're seasoned and you've been walking with God for a long time, everybody in here at some point will have to deal with the reality that God in his sovereignty will still allow you to struggle sometimes.
Yeah, he will. Yeah.
And you might get to the place where you have trust issues. Well, what I've come to do today, very briefly, is to try to encourage somebody in here who's got some trust issues.
Speak.
And I've come to say that God has you exactly where he wants you.
Good.
Because if you have trust issues, that means, that presupposes the reality that you're trying to trust.
Yeah, I like it.
I wish somebody would help me today. If I've got trust issues, that means, Elijah, I'm trying to trust.
Yes.
Bring it down.
Thank you, Holy Ghost. You remember in the New Testament when the disciples were dealing with a young man that they could not heal. And the father came to Jesus frustrated, and he said, now, Lord, sir, I brought my young boy to your disciples, and they couldn't help me out. And the young man was dealing with a spiritual malady. He was dealing with the fact that his physiologically and spiritually he was suffering. And this father brought his son to the disciples, thinking they would be able to help. And he runs up to Jesus and says, I came to you. I came to the church and nobody could help me. Your disciples could not help. So what's up? Jesus begins to talk with this father. And he tells the father, you need to put your belief and faith and trust in me. And the father says, Lord, I believe.
Yeah.
But help my unbelief.
Yeah.
This father, church, had trust issues because he had gone to those who were supposed to be representatives of God. And when they could not come through for him, he goes to Jesus and says, I got some trust issues. I believe, but help my unbelief. And if that's where you are, I want to introduce you to Job.
Yeah.
You You remember Job's story? Bible says that Job was a righteous man.
Yeah. Upright.
He was an upright man.
Yeah.
He was a good husband and a good father. And he was faithful to his family. And the Bible says that one day he got several messages, one right after the other. And he literally saw the life that he knew come apart. Job saw the life that he knew unravel before his very eyes. Because he lost all of his children. He was a wealthy man. He was a man that had not only financial treasure, but had a big family. And all of a sudden he lost his treasure, lost his kids, had his wife sitting there, and she got to the point where even her trust issues took over, and she said, baby, why would you still trust in a God that would let all of this happen? Why don't you just curse God and die?
And die. Yep.
His health had failed. His children were gone. And he's sitting there in an ash heap, scratching himself because he has boils all over his skin, full of infection and pus. And I know that's graphic, but that's on purpose because I want you to be there so you can see him. He's covered head to toe. His health is gone. He's sick. He's lost all 10 of his children. And his wife said, why are you still trusting in this God? And we find him here now. After that encounter, his friends show up. Have you ever been going through something and then your friends started out pretty good because they were there to support you and they were there just to be present? Can I slide this in? See, you need friends who every now and then are friends enough to just be there with you. See, in this journey of faith, you don't need somebody who can go with you when it's time to go out, but can't come in when it's time to sit and be quiet. They can only hang out. You gotta have somebody that can come and sit there with you when you have some unanswered questions and can be there to help pray for you and encourage you and support you, not just go out with you. So they started off real good. They were there. They sat silently. But then they started talking. Have you ever had somebody who had good intentions? Who meant well, but when they opened their mouth, they didn't know what they were talking about?
Oh yeah.
And so these friends began to speak to Job in a manner that eventually God will step in and God will correct them. And so Job is sitting here dealing with friends who have made some assumptions, which leads us to what I want us to initially understand, and that is, if you and I have trust issues, you and I must understand that there will be contradictions that we encounter in this life. There will be contradictions that we encounter in this life. Because his friends are sitting there, and here's what Job says in verse 13. Hold your peace and let me speak. In other words, Job's saying, be quiet. I have something to say. Because they made, watch this, the assumption that Job's struggle and Job's suffering was tied to sin. I know this is very basic in review, but this is what God gave me. They assumed that his struggle and his suffering had to be tied to some sin somewhere along the way. Have you ever looked at somebody struggling in their marriage and then had the audacity to say, well, she's got to be doing something wrong. Or he must have done something wrong. Or you look at somebody struggling financially and you say, well, they must have been up to something. And oftentimes, our struggles in life are tied to our mistakes and our misguided decisions. But here is an example of somebody whose suffering and whose struggle had nothing to do with sin. Because the Bible had already established the fact that he was a righteous man, an upstanding man, that he would sacrifice and give extra just in case his children had sinned. So God decided to put Job on display and make him an object lesson for us, to teach us that there will be contradictions we encounter in this life. In other words, we're going to suffer sometimes, and it won't have anything to do with sin. We know that the presence of sin is prevalent everywhere, but there are going to be some hardships, there are going to be some challenges that God will allow you to endure, and it will have nothing to do with sin. But it will have everything to do with learning to surrender yourself in the presence of His sovereign will. That He sometimes has to sanctify us and strengthen us by allowing us to suffer.
Yeah.
That He can get out of us what He can only get out of us if He allows certain things to happen. So that we grow closer to Him. And that's not a lot. That's not what people shout on. That's not what folk want to hear. You want to hear me tell you that God will deliver, and He will, and that God will come through, and He will. But sometimes God will make you wait. And sometimes God will make you learn how to be patient in a painful place. So, the contradiction. What do you do when life contradicts your faith? When you have trust issues because your circumstance contradicts who God says He is. What God said He would do is contradicted by what God has allowed. What God promised has been contradicted by what God permits. Which leads us to understand, secondly, that there is a cost that we must embrace. If you have trust issues, it's because there are some contradictions you will encounter. Your life will not always match your promise. Your life, your circumstance will not always match your prayer. God will allow some incongruity. He will allow something to be asymmetrical, where it doesn't match up, it doesn't fit. But then secondly, you got to understand then, because there's a cost attached. There's a cost that we must embrace. Because watch this, Job says, though He slay me. See, they made assumptions about God. But now Job is dealing with the activity of God, because he says, though He, God, not Satan. Because in Old Testament theology, the Hebrew faith, they ascribe ultimately everything to God and His power. So if everything that's happening to Job is within the jurisdiction and oversight of God, he's saying, though God, though the one that has all power in His hands, though He slays me. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
If He's God, He's not my enemy. He's supposed to be caring for me. Supposed to be the lover of my soul, the caretaker of me and my spirit, the protector, the provider. If God is all of that, why would Job then say, though He slay?
Yeah.
Why doesn't he say, though the adversary slay? Why does he point to God and not Satan? Because there's a cost. When you look at that word slay, what it really means is to be cut off. It also means to kill, to defeat. But at its root it means to cut off. So what Job is really saying is, though He cuts me off. How do you handle it when you feel like God's cut you off? When you feel like you've been severed from all that makes Him who He is. When you feel like you've been separated and severed from the comfort of His presence. But here's the ironic thing. He says, though he slay me, then he says, yet will I trust him. Sometimes when you and I calculate the cost of what it means to trust God and to know that God is allowing and even doing some things on purpose in your life, that the activity of God brings your life more pain than promise, it brings your life more perplexity than clarity, it brings your life more hardship and challenge. That's a heavy and high cost. But here's finally where the credibility comes. He says, I will trust him. And here it is. Even if he takes me out. Even if what he's doing takes me under. Though he slays me. That's in the imperfect tense in Hebrew. Meaning there's a process to this. Even if he takes me out. Here's the credibility that we establish, that Job establishes, and that we must establish. I will still trust him because I'm going to affirm that even if I don't know when, where, or how, he's trustworthy. I'm almost done. I don't know when, where, or how, but I'm going to trust him. I don't know when he's going to come through. I don't know how God is going to come through. I don't know where God is going to come through. I don't know to what extent God will deliver me, when he's going to do it, how, but I'm going to trust him. I'm going to trust God, and that is what gives my trust, my faith, credibility. When I encounter contradictions and I embrace the cost, I establish credibility when I can trust God, not knowing how he's going to deliver. I'm done. But look again, because it says, though he slay me, yet I will trust him. That's capitalized. I'm going to trust the God who's killing me. I'm going to trust the God, wait a minute, that doesn't sound right, Pastor, are you sure? Yes. I'm going to trust the God who's slaying me. I'm going to trust the God who's allowing me to have these boils on my skin. Translation, I'm going to trust the God that let me lose my job. Because I see you all looking at me like, what are you talking about, Pastor? I'm going to trust the God who allowed me to get divorced. I'm going to trust the God that allowed me to be in a relationship where the brother or the sister would walk away from me. I'm going to trust the God that will allow my child to get sick and die. I'm going to trust the God that will allow my spouse to get sick and pass away before I can say goodbye. I'm going to trust the God that would allow me to be underwater in my rent, underwater in my bills, overextended in my fat. I'm going to trust that God. That allowed me to go through everything I went through, and yet I will trust him. Why? Because he's God and I'm not. Because he created me and I didn't create myself. Because he has power and I don't. Because he's worthy and I'm not. So I will trust in that God.
Pretty much.
There's an old story about a young man who had trust issues, and he was trying to establish faith and trust in God. And he had trouble doing so. And there was an old sage who told him, if you really want to trust God, I believe I can show you something that can help. So the old sage, he takes him Takes the young man, they go over to this big pot of water. Old sage looks at the young man and says, now, you've come to me and you've been telling me you've been trying to find God, you've been trying to establish a relationship with God, because it's hard for you to believe in a God you can't see. It's hard for you to believe in a God that will allow certain things to happen in your life, and I want to try to help you today. So he said, come here, and he grabbed him by the neck, and he shoved the young man's face down in this big pot of water. And he held him there until the young man started wiggling and moving around, because obviously the young man does not want to drown. He cannot breathe.
Right, right.
So the old sage experienced in this exercise, to the dismay and the fear and intimidation of this young man, he yanks the young man out. And the young man is gasping for air. He's breathing, he's huffing and puffing, and he's about to attack the old man. And he's saying, why would you do such a thing? I came to you because I'm trying to establish a relationship with God. I'm having a hard time believing in him because I can't seem to find him. I can't seem to understand him. I can't seem to intellectually comprehend how God could be real if I can't see him. And he said, so why would you do that? I trusted you and I came to you with my trust issues. And the old sage looked at the young man. He said, son, when you want God like you wanted your next breath, you'll meet him. And all I've come to say, and I'm done, is that some of us have already met him. But we're in a place where we need to come back to him. Because he has us in a painful place, in a difficult place, and we're tempted now with our trust issues to walk away from him. And all I've come to say is, the same way that young man wanted oxygen to breathe is the same way sometimes that you've got to want God even when it's painful. That even if you have to suffer, it's better to be in God's presence in pain than to be outside of God's presence and not having God.
Yeah.
So let us stand today